Wouldn't it be nice if we were older, then we wouldn't have to wait so long. Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Ernesto with Aftershoot, and in this video we're gonna go over 5 tips to improve your photo composition if you're just starting out in portrait photography. Okay, so we're going to discuss grid lines and levels, vertical and horizontal photos, environmental elements, centered images, and rule breaking. There are a lot of videos online already talking about negative space and leading lines, so stuff like that we're not going to discuss because I wanted to talk about different things that you haven't seen before so as not to repeat what you might have already seen online. Tip number 1 has to do with having your camera ready and prepared to compose your images. See, we might think we already know what the center of a frame is or how leveled our photo might be, but in reality we don't need to be guessing these things. Technology is here to help us, so why make things hard on ourselves when we can just activate different things in our camera to get the results we want faster? So whatever camera brand you use, make sure you have your grid lines activated to help you when you're composing your images. My recommendation is to always have it set to the rule of thirds because this is the one you're mostly going to use when you're beginning in photography. Also, in order to have your images properly leveled, meaning parallel to the ground, activate the level in your camera display. I know what you're gonna say. I can correct the level while I'm editing the photo, and yeah, that's true. But every time you correct that while editing, you're also cropping a little of the photo. So if your image was already a little too tight, you might lose important information just because you didn't have the level activated in your display. Do me a favor, it doesn't hurt, activate these options in your camera. Social media has kind of transformed the way a lot of people go through the composition process when they're out on a shoot. There's a flood of vertical portraits online, basically because social apps made for phones give images more screen real estate when they're vertical. So does that mean horizontal portraits are dead? Well, no. While vertical portraits are booming, it is also important not to forget to shoot horizontal images. With a vertical portrait, you basically center your photo and that's it. I mean, you can apply the rule of thirds, but on a vertical frame, that's not too far from the center. However, once you turn your camera around, horizontal photos give you a little more space to play around, either to show more of the environment or give your subject more negative space. Don't count horizontal portraits out just yet. Tip number 3 has to do with learning to include the elements of the environment in your photo. That is easier to explain with some photos, so here we go. Here we have a corporate portrait for the CEO of a company. We shot this at their conference room, and as you can see, there is a screen behind him. The screen was off, but when I saw the spot and the screen, I asked them to have the company logo or name on it. That way, the portrait will have more information about the subject. I could have easily just shot a tighter portrait, but using the screen definitely makes the photo more interesting. Let's see another example. This is a lifestyle photo shoot for a musician. As you can see, we found these walls full of graffiti and decided to use them as background at first. But then I saw the buildings in the back and I asked the subject to sit on top of the wall, and then I used the buildings to frame him, and the result ended up looking like this. Again, using the elements in the environment to make your photo more interesting. One more example. We have this tight portrait we shot against a fence. You can actually see some of the fence towards the left side of the photo. I asked the model to get as close as possible to the plants so as to use them as interference. They also created some different shadows on their face that make the photo a little more interesting. Again, this is a whatever street. The fence had nothing special about it, but I saw the plants, I saw the fence, and I decided to use that and other elements to make the portrait more interesting. So yeah, when you're going to take a portrait, examine your surroundings and check what you can do with the elements around you. Tip number 4 is something I could try and do more. Sometimes, because of the kind of work I'm doing, I end up mostly centering my images. I use the grid to put my subject in the middle and then just shoot away. Well, that's something everyone is doing. So if you want to stand out and have different photos from the rest, not centering everything would be a good starting point. Use the rule of thirds to play your subject a little to the sides to give him some direction, to have something not everyone would deliver. Of course, your photo has to have some balance, so maybe here you can also include elements in the environment to level things out, or maybe just follow the direction of your subject's vision to leave some negative space. Whatever you do, not centering everything is a good exercise to start getting more creative. So next time you're on a photo shoot and you notice all of your photos are just a little too centered, remember and try this tip out because different compositions can give you different and good results. Who knows, you might end up surprising yourself. And the last piece of advice in this video is something to think but also be careful about. See, there's a lot of different rules and advices you will hear when shooting portraits or photography in general. It's great to learn them, use them, and exploit them as much as you can. That's the only way to get good at this. But it is also important to break the rules every now and then. Now, this is dangerous, so remember this. Before you break a rule, make sure you really know it. Some people never learn anything and just go around pretending to be special by not following any particular rules, and that's not exactly what this tip is about. What I'm trying to say is learn the basic rules and settings, but also bend them every now and then just to see what you get as a result. If people say, don't shoot too close with a wide-angle lens, go ahead and try it out, see what you can come up with, and maybe something creative is the result of it. If you hear that low angles are not commonly used in fashion photography, try them out for yourself, explore the results, who knows what you might get. Go ahead and shoot portraits when the subject is barely visible in the composition. Leave negative space towards the back of your subject's head instead of the front, I don't know. The idea here is to be aware of the rules and regular procedures, but also not to be afraid to try and innovate every now and then. So there you go, these are 5 composition tips for beginner portrait photographers to try out. Don't forget to follow Aftershoot in all of our social media to be always up to date with the latest things we have to offer. Well, nothing else. See you guys in the next one. Bye.